Hi, it's Lucy, and today I'm here to do my best books of 2023 video. Maybe this is late, I don't know. When am I ever on time for anything? This year I've decided to rank them, so these are in order from best to bestest, starting with an honorable mention. And now I will put on my glasses so I can read my notes. So that honorable mention is The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This follows a girl named Avery Grams whose entire life has changed when one day she's pulled out of class and told that she is the sole inheritor to the multi-billion-dollar fortune left behind by Tobias Hawthorne, a man she doesn't know and has never met. Now, as a stipulation of her inheritance, she has to move to Texas to where this man's house is, which is known as Hawthorne House, and is occupied by all the members of the family who were disinherited and aren't too happy about it. So it's up to her and the four attractive Hawthorne grandsons to figure out the last riddle Tobias Hawthorne must have left, which is why he left his inheritance to this random girl. If you watched my last video, or my worst books video basically, you might be surprised to see this on here because the second book made it onto the worst books of the year video. But part of that reason was because I enjoyed this book so much. This is not great literature, I'm not saying that, but I ate this book straight up. I was totally enamored by it. I loved reading it. Part of that might have been because I was in my lottery phase where I was definitely imagining what it would be like if I specifically had inherited that money, and this book allowed me to feed that fantasy a little bit. But I was also really interested in the mystery and wanted to keep reading to figure it all out. This remains an honorable mention and not fully on the list because there is a romance angle I suggested by those handsome sons, or grandsons, I should say. I wasn't into that. It wasn't that huge a part of the book that I was like, mystery, billions of dollars. This is How You Lose a Time War by Amal El Motar and Max Gladstone. This follows two beings known as Red and Blue who are fighting on opposite sides of a great time war. Each side is trying to make their own future happen by going back in time and manipulating things to make it more likely for their future to happen. One day, Red receives a letter from Blue, and this starts off an epic romantic journey that many people loved, including me. I really enjoyed this, hence it being on this list. I'm very sure you've already heard of this unless you're not on BookTube at all, in which case I am very honored to be the only BookTube channel you watch. Like everyone says, the language is very flowery, but I like that. I felt like it really added this poetic element that really lets you feel sunken into the story, even if you're not 100% sure what is going on. Somehow it still just made me feel like every emotion it wanted me to feel, and I would really recommend this if you're looking for this kind of heart-wrenching and beautiful sapphic romance. Next we have Babel by R.F. Kuang. This follows Robin Swift, who is an orphan who was brought to China in order to study languages like Latin, Greek, and Chinese. And this was all in preparation for him to start his time at Oxford's Royal Institute of Translation, also known as Babel, which is the world's center of translation and by extension magic, because in this world the magic system is based on silver working, which involves translating words to imbue power into the silver. And these silver bars are used to do everything from run trains to helping people's gardens grow. So we see Robin through his years at Oxford as he realizes what it all means, as he finds himself caught between Babel and the shadowy Hermes Society, an organization that's dedicated to stopping Britain's imperial expansion. Okay, so this is another popular one that I've also seen be very divisive. Kind of this synopsis that I just gave you isn't super duper accurate because it's a very slow moving story, and I feel like the way the synopsis prepares you, it feels like it should be, I guess, more battle heavy or something like that. But this is a lot of I don't want to say rumination, but we're a lot in this kid's head. We get some glimpses of other characters' thoughts as well. But it's mostly the exploration of colonialism, what it all means, how this affects Robin, and also his own heritage because he's biracial. And then his friends, he becomes friends with the quote-unquote outcasts, the two girls in his group and a boy from India. And one of the other girls is Haitian, which I always love to see. Obviously, R.F. Kuang is not Haitian, and I am Haitian American, so I have a different experience than if I was born in Haiti and raised there. But yeah, I love to see it. I also thought the magic system and the clear love for languages was really displayed throughout the story. That was really interesting to me. All the people who feel like this is very slow are right. So be aware of that, but if you are okay with that, then I would recommend it because I couldn't leave it off this list since I did cry at the ending on an airplane, which was very embarrassing for me. So take that as a recommendation. Life in Motion, An Unlikely Ballerina by Misty Copeland. This is Misty Copeland's memoir detailing her life and how she became the first African-American principal ballerina at the American Ballet Theater. I enjoyed this much more than I expected to because I just didn't know what to really expect, but it was really fascinating seeing exactly what Misty Copeland went through, especially in her early childhood. I had no idea about any of her family stuff. She did go through in like a lot more detail than I would have expected, I guess. I do feel like she may have had some rose-colored glasses over some event, or she was writing it as if she did, but overall I thought that was really interesting. And I thought her descriptions of dancing and ballet in general were beautiful and inspiring, so much so that I did register for a ballet class like while I was reading this. I have done ballet before. I did ballet all throughout my childhood and everything, so it's not like it was a first class for me, but you know, it inspired me to get back to ballet. Books like this always do. That's why I picked them up. I love books about ballet, but it was really nice to like read this inspiring read from someone who worked so hard to climb to the top in this specific way, especially. So yeah, definitely recommend it if you have any interest in ballet. Next, we have The Appeal by Janice Hallett. This follows the members of a community theater group, the Fairway Players, when the granddaughter of the director of the play is diagnosed with a rare cancer whose only potential treatment is a very expensive experimental drug. This leads the castmates to try and run an appeal or fundraiser in order to raise the money that's needed to pay for this treatment. However, not everyone is convinced the treatment will work or that everybody involved has good intentions. This leads to growing tension, which ultimately culminates in a dead body and an arrest. And this whole story is told in a series of documents that are framed as the documents that were given to two lawyers who are tasked with figuring out what happened and if they arrested the right person. I feel like I've spoken about this pretty extensively, but that might just be in my head, but I've definitely spoken about this in at least 2 videos, I think. So yeah, I really enjoyed this book. What really did it for me is the format. Like I said, it's told in a series of messages and letters and emails, and that part just makes it extra interesting. All of the twists and turns and the large cast of characters really add to that fun feeling that you're being given the town gossip, even though it is kind of dark since you know it does end in murder, but it's almost like a cozy mystery, I feel like. And I just had such a good time reading this, it had to be on this list. And it spurred me on to like wanting more books like this. I definitely already knew that I liked mixed media books, but like I didn't really realize I liked them so much as like a mystery. But I'm also in my mystery era, so. The Black God's Drums by P. Djeli Clark. This is a novella, so I'm just gonna read the Goodreads summary. Creeper, a scrappy young teen, is done living on the streets of New Orleans. Instead, she wants to soar, and her sights are set on securing passage aboard the smuggler airship Midnight Robber. Her ticket, earning Captain Anne Marie's trust using a secret about a kidnapped Haitian scientist and a mysterious weapon he calls the Black God's Drums. But Creeper keeps another secret close to heart. Oya, the African Orisha of the wind and storms, who speaks inside her head and grants her divine powers. And Oya has her own priorities concerning Creeper and Anne Marie. This was just a super interesting novella. The most compelling part for me was the world building. I just thought the world was so fascinating. This takes place in kind of, I've seen it described as like steampunky because of the airships and everything. It's an alternate history where the Civil War ended actually in a treaty instead of the Confederacy surrendering. So the United States is split from the Union and the Confederacy, and Louisiana is treated as an independent place that is like kind of governed by both the Union, Confederacy, and Haiti. Or not governed, but like taken care of is not the right word, like monitored, and they have their own independent governance. And also Haiti is treated as like more of a world power, like the way that they won their independence was, I think, more decisive. And so that all was just really interesting. I would love to read more books set in this world, to read more novellas or a series, something. I just thought it was just so fascinating. World building aside, the actual story is also very compelling, with the touch of magic brought on by like using the Orisha, like I said in the synopsis, how the main character has one kind of in her head. Very fascinating, also made it really interesting to read. And just seeing like all the, not adventures because it's like so short, but the one adventure that the main character goes through and seeing her like bond with unlikely people, it was just like a fun Really good read. I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jennette McCurdy. This is Jennette McCurdy's memoir. She is best known as Sam Puckett on both iCarly and Sam and Cat on Nickelodeon. This details her struggles with many things, including eating disorders, addiction, and like the title indicates, a very complicated relationship with her overbearing mother who eventually passes away from cancer. Overbearing is an understatement. I took this partially from the Goodreads synopsis. I think they didn't want to put abusive directly, but she was abusive. This was probably on everyone's list when it came out, I believe in 2022, and also the title made like a big splash, but everyone who put this on their list was right. I am the arbiter of that, clearly. And I'm just late to everything as usual. Jennette takes an incredibly honest and matter-of-fact look at her childhood, and just the details of which are like captivating and compelling in so many ways. From a voyeuristic perspective, it is fascinating to hear about some of the things that went on behind the scenes of like these childhood shows that I watched. I didn't really watch Sam and Cat, but iCarly I definitely watched. And from a human perspective, it's incredibly sad to hear of everything she went through to be in those shows with her mom, especially, and her family in general. And just like the synopsis said, like eating disorder talk, there's like a heavy trigger warning for that because her mom is basically the one to give her an eating disorder. I know that there's like a discussion like around eating disorders and how like your parents, especially your mom, or if you're a person who grew up as a girl, can like affect you. But in this situation, it was like directly like her mom was telling her not to eat. And it's like, it's just so mind-blowing, everything she says about this. If you get a chance to listen to the audiobook, I definitely recommend it because Jennette narrates it herself, and that obviously adds another level to it. And I would definitely recommend this if you can handle the subject matter. Solutions and Other Problems by Ali Brosh. This is a graphic memoir by Ali Brosh, who had a very popular blog in the late 2000s, early 2010s called Hyperbole and a Half, which is also the title of her first book. She shares funny stories from her childhood and life, and she's known for her very childlike, cartoony drawing style. This book is also kind of a follow-up to her first book in the sense that she explains like why this book took so long after the first book, and she also stopped posting on her blog in between. So this book is on this list because it was just laugh out loud funny. I laughed so many times while reading this. I read it next to my boyfriend and would just like be giggling, and he'd be looking at me like, what is wrong with you? So yeah, it was really funny, made me laugh. I enjoyed it a lot. There is some like tougher subject matter in here because like part of the reason that she took that break that I talked about just now was like she suffers from depression, and she also dealt with a divorce. She talks a little bit about that in here, but she still manages to inject humor and make it a fun read, although those sections in particular weren't super fun. You get what I'm saying though. The last and final book, and also by extension the best book I read in 2023 was The Anthropocene Reviewed by John Green. This is a collection of essays by John Green that are about the Anthropocene, also known as the time we're currently living in where humans have thoroughly impacted the environment. I feel like I talked a lot about this in my mid-year book freakout tag, so I will leave that link down below and you can watch that if you want more details. But to summarize, I think this is the best book that John Green has ever written, and I'm not sure if he can ever beat it. I found the topics he wrote about and how he wrote about them to somehow be uniquely intriguing. He managed to have so much heart throughout his stories. He's just picking out random things that he likes for the most part, or things that he doesn't like actually, and he's like giving them a grade basically. He just writes an essay about it, and somehow he makes you care about that too. I almost liked sports after reading this because John Green feels so passionately about sports, and he makes you feel that passion too. I just felt that like really throughout the book, and I enjoyed it a lot. Like, this was a surprise for me to enjoy a John Green book that much. I feel like it is pretty different from his other books, so I would recommend it even if you didn't like his other books. I just think this works so well, and I'm really glad that I read it. Okay, so those are all the books that I want to talk to you all about today. Those are my best books of 2023, my favorite books of 2023. In the comments down below, let me know what was your favorite book that you read in 2023, or one of your favorite books. Also leave me a star emoji in the comments down below. If you haven't already, you should check out my worst books of the year video, like the opposite of this, and I will see you in my next video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye!